What is up, guys? Animoley here with an Animoley album review. Today we're looking at Iron Maiden Senjutsu. For all you Iron Maiden fans out there, I'm sure you know that it is their 17th album, the most recent one released last year, 2021. Let's do a few details on the album, a few facts. It had two singles released. Number one was Writing on the Wall, and second single was Stratego. And let's see what the track listing is. We've got Senjutsu, Stratego, the Writing on the Wall, Lost in a Lost World, Days of Future Past, The Time Machine, Darkest Hour, Death of the Celts, The Parchment, and Hell on Earth. Other things to know about this album: it was quite commercially successful for them. Peaked at number 1 in 24 countries. US top 200 album charts, it featured at number 3, and in the UK album charts it reached number 2. We're going to touch on some of the songs, listen to a few clips of it, and by the end you'll have my final rating on the album. So without too much further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the album kicks off with a title track, Senjutsu. It's 8 minutes 20 seconds long. I thought it was a good track to start off the album with. I like the drum building up at the beginning. It's very strange and unusual for an Iron Maiden track, so that was a nice change. I thought the main riffs really drive the song pretty well. And the chorus is quite stirring and grand in nature, you know. I thought Bruce's vocals are quite sort of tenacious and slightly gritty and had a bit of punch behind them, so that they were good. Anything I would say is at 8 minutes long, drums in particular sometimes got a bit repetitive, didn't really change much. The solos were good, they fit the song well, I thought. All in all, not a bad way to kick off the album. Thought it was, as I say, fairly strong riffage, nice build up of the drums, epic sort of sounding. I'd give this particular song 6 out of 10. So for me, that represents something that's certainly not a song that you'd want to skip. More than happy to listen to. You might listen to it again every now and then. That sort of rating, that's what 6 out of 10 for me means. Alright, track 2. Stratego. Now this one for me, one of the songs on the album, for me, the strongest songs. It's a bit faster paced, it's got that nice galloping riff and drums, real trademark of Iron Maiden stuff. So yeah, really like that. The lyrics flow lovely, there's some great change-ups, and Bruce is really punching it on some of the pre-chorus and the chorus, you know, all that "look at my eyes." Love that stuff. Yes, I thought musically pretty good. The only thing I would say, again, it suffers slightly with repetition, but there's enough change-ups in there to sort of keep it feeling fresh enough, and it's not the longest song either. So yeah, for me, definitely one of the strongest songs on the album. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. On to track 3, Writing on the Wall. This was the first single. The previous track actually was the second single on the album. So this one, Writing on the Wall, first single, had that really obvious Scottish influence from the bassist in terms of the actual riff that he used. It's very Celtic in nature and sounded like a Scottish Highland jig sort of effect. But that's quite novel. It's quite nice in the ear. But really, the song comes to life midway through. You get a nice sort of pre-solo instrumental section incorporating a lot of that Scottish sound, and when the solos come in, particularly the second solo, it reaches euphoric levels. It's really top notch. One thing I would say is tempo is pretty steady and consistent throughout the whole song. There's not really any changes in tempo, which is always nice if there is, in my opinion. I would give Writing on the Wall a 6 out of 10. It's not, for me, as good as Stratego. It's got some nice things, and as I say, the solo really helps it out. I found the vocals on it a little bit lacking in dynamic in terms of where he takes it in terms of range. So for me, it felt a little bit ploddy in that respect, but the solo brings it up. The Scottish jig's a nice novel element to it. 6 out of 10. On to track 4, Lost in a Lost World. I found the intro very pleasant. It's got a strong attacking riff in. It's fairly simple, but it's got a good punch to it. One thing I wasn't too keen was the vocal effect they put on his voice. They actually put an effect on his voice. I think they doubled up his vocals, but it sounded like there was a slight effect on it as well. I wasn't keen on that. That detracted it from it for me. Aside from that, nice instrumentals and the change-ups in the song I thought worked well. And the intro and outro as well was also really poetic, I thought. Like that. That's quite strong. But again, with the vocal effect and I found the chorus a bit lacking. It's a bit, just lacked inspiration. Just didn't really grab me, So 6 out of 10 again for track 4, Lost in the Lost World. On to track 5, Days of Future Past. I like the lyrics of this one and the pace. It skips along really nicely. Found it really enjoyable. This is one of the better tracks I found. Vocals sound pretty good and well in Bruce's range and everything. So I was feeling that. It's also the shortest song on the album. So in some ways, there's no surprise that it's a bit more accessible and easy to get into. Solo was alright. By the way, guys, if you know who's doing these solos, I'd love you to drop it in the comments, because I never know which of the 3 guitarists are doing the solos. Sometimes I think you're going to get an inkling and you can think you know who it is. They have a certain style, some of them, but you're never quite sure. But yeah, if you know, let us know. This one I gave a rating of 7 out of 10. Yeah, one of my favourites on the album. On to track 6, The Time Machine. This one I thought was sung well. Instrumentally, it was alright with some nice change-ups. However, lyrically, I didn't actually like the lyrics on this one. I found them pretty bland. For me, this song was distinctly average. I gave this a 5 out of 10. It's not one I'd skip, but it's also a song which I'm not going to seek out, I don't think, particularly either. It's one of those, if it comes on, fine. If it don't, fine. Okay, so now we're well into the second half of the album now. And I think things generally they pick up a little bit. The songs are a bit longer, not as accessible, but I think they're a better quality. So we've got track 7, Darkest Hour. Well, for me, for this one, it gets an extra point straight away because of the subject matter. He's talking about Churchill, he's talking about World War II, D-Day. There's nothing more to be prouder of. I thought Bruce really excelled on this. Gorgeous lyrics. Bruce's really powerful portrayal of the song. I think the solo might have benefited from a change in tempo behind it, with the guitars and etc. The song could have done with a little something, but overall I thought this was a really good song. Like I say, the lyrics are top notch, but Bruce did well on it. The subject matter's amazing. Yeah, something to really get behind. Another 7 out of 10 for me. On to track 8, Death of the Celts. This one's actually received from fans in comments and things before now. I've seen it's had a lot of rave. A lot of people like it. It's certainly singled out by a lot of people. For me, I can see the attraction. I can see what people are getting behind some of the solos later on. I like the Scottish influence. It's very, very reminiscent of the Clansman, one of the tracks from their Blaze Bailey era, believe it or not. Yeah, reminiscent of that, which is no bad thing, I think the song excels most in those parts where it is reminiscent of that. The verses are good, but they are, in the end, eventually it started to drag on a little bit. I think due to the length of the song, this was the third longest song on the album. It was 10 minutes 20 seconds, and the rhythm of the lyrics, of him delivering the lyrics, trying to squeeze it in a little bit, that was the detractor for me. The main riff gets reshuffled a few times. Never really grabs me. Never quite hooks me in. But yeah, however, the solos do have a lot of punch, and I think that is what a lot of people like about this song. Not a terrible song by any means. For me, 6 out of 10. On to the last two tracks of the album. We've got The Parchment. For me, the instrumentals were amazing. The solos also, they really soar above the music, and at the end you're rewarded with a sprint finish. It's a long song. This was actually the longest song, 12 minutes 38, but you are rewarded for your patience with some, as I say, brilliant instrumentals. And a real sprint finish at the end. It picks up the pace, you get some nice solos in there. The vocal section I found a little bit too long. I didn't mind the vocals on this, and the verses were alright, but I think particularly the second vocal, I wouldn't call it a verse because it's very carries on in almost like a constant barrage, but it just went on a little bit too long for me in terms of the vocals. They could have shaved a minute or two off this song, and it would have only made it better, I think, in my opinion. But for me, this is one of the better songs on the album. It got a 7 out of 10. On to the final track, Hell on Earth. It's got a 2-minute intro. Once it gets into it, it's a nice intro as well. It's instrumentally done very well. Yeah, really top notch on this particular song. But as I say, it has got a 2-minute intro, so you've got to be patient for it. The vocal melody, I think, is the best on this song. Like on this album, this is the best vocal melody that you can find on the album for me. Bruce really mixes it up. Also, slight coincidence that all my favourite songs seem to have a galloping element to it. On this one, it's the bass. It's Steve Harris doing the duty, and yeah, that gallops along lovely in this song. For me, it deserves a place on Iron Maiden's epic songs list. Not just obviously because of the length, but in terms of its quality, it's up there with some of their better ones, you know, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, etc. And I don't know, other more sort of modest ones actually, like the thin line between love and hate and things like that. Yeah, this is a nice one to end the record on, and one of their strongest songs. For me, it's an 8 out of 10 on this song as well. So, in summary, Senjutsu, I enjoyed it. There's some flat spots in it. It's a bit of a mixed bag. There's a couple of average tracks, there's a couple of good tracks, and there's a couple of very good tracks. Highlights for me being Stratego, Hell on Earth, as I just mentioned, and Darkest Hour. I think the album overall suffers a little bit from the production. I find it a bit muddy, as it is in their later albums. For me, it affected the enjoyment a little bit, which just hit the final score for this album. I think if the production had been better, it would have been a mark higher. But for me, on this album, it's 6 out of 10. Let us know what you think in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed today. And yeah, stay tuned for more reviews, reactions, and content. And I will see you next time. Ciao.